My name is Arthur Perry, and I sing with a group called the Montclairs. The Montclairs was a group that was formed in Brooklyn, but everybody thought we were from Montclair, New Jersey, because of the name, but we were from Brooklyn. And we were just a bunch of neighborhood kids at that time, everybody had groups. On every corner there was a group singing. And we started out with, a bunch of friends going to parties, and there was like the group around the corner, the group down the street, the group across town. So there was always, you know, they used to have the battle of the groups at some gatherings or restaurants or places like that. But yeah, we did a lot of singing on the corner.
So before you started singing in groups, I guess growing up, did you have a lot of relatives that were in the music or like in the business or church or any set of like that?
No, not really. Before that, when I was maybe 13, 14 years old, 15, something like that, I had a friend named Jernigan, Joseph Jernigan, and him and I and my sister Rita was supposed to be our manager, and we went and did an audition for Milton Berle's show. But Milton Berle says, "You guys are dancing, but you're not doing nothing together. Everybody's doing something, so we didn't do the show, but we did do the Apollo Theater. And at the Apollo, we won first prize.
And that was with the dancing or with your group?
Well, that was I'm getting ahead of myself. The the group was with the group was just Fred Long and the other fellows that were in the group. But when I did the Jernigan and Perry, that was just me and another guy. That was the first time we did some things. And then we danced and sang. After that, I formed a group called the Montclairs. And we used to sing on all the corners, and Bethlehem and Nostrand and Franklin Avenue and all the busy streets. We'd go down there and just start singing on the corners. And it was a very interesting time because there was a lot of groups singing on a lot of corners, And at that time, Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers was the biggest hit going, and then there was the other group, I can't think of their names, but there was a lot of different group things going on at that time. And we were singing at the Apollo. We went for the amateur hour. And at the amateur hour, they had, singers, dancers, whatever, people doing magic tricks or whatever they were doing, and mostly singers and dancers. And we got up and we won first prize at the Apollo. And then they brought us back, and for some reason, the group had decided that Tucson should sing and not me. And we went back, Tucson sang, but we didn't win anything. So it was like a coup in the group. And Tucson had a lisp. So when he was saying love, it was more like wove. So it was do you wove, do you wove, do you wove? And that was the song we were singing, and it didn't get over, so we. But after that, we went back to singing on corners, and we did a TV show in Jersey one time, and but I think it was just kind of a local thing, it wasn't national. But yeah.
I guess going quickly back to that first Apollo appearance, how was that experience walking on that stage for the first time?
Well, there was a girl, her name was Little Esther. And Little Esther was on the show, the main show. Because they would do the show, and after the show was over, then the amateur hour would start. And we met Little Esther, and I think for some reason Alan Freed was backstage. For what reason, I don't know. But we met him also. Alan Freed probably was a big deal. But I don't know why he was there, because he didn't come out on stage or anything. I think he was there to meet somebody. But yeah, it was a trying time. And Apollo at that time was, when you were downstairs in the basement, you could look up between the boards and see the people on the stage.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember what song you sang?
I think it was You're in My Every Dream, I believe. That was the song that we sang at the Apollo.
I guess that makes sense. You guys won first prize. Then.
Yeah.
So I guess before that Apollo, were you guys just neighborhood friends, or did you guys go to school together? Or?
Well, Fred Long lived around the corner from me in Tucson, lived a few blocks away, and Bill White lived around the corner. So we all lived fairly close to each other. And we just get together on a corner and just start singing. That was the thing.
Was it like that situation where it's like you guys all kind of figured out you guys could all sing, and you're like, oh, you should sing this part and I'll sing this part?
Yeah, well, what happened was Fred Long was like a soprano, and Bill White was the bass, and we all took turns kind of leading.
It was like whatever voice part fit the song.
Right, yeah. And we got ready to do this recording. I had wrote the song In My Every Dream, and we started going to the record company. They liked it, and we put it on. We put on we did a television show in Jersey, and they liked it, and that's when we did the recording.
So you did the television appearance first, and then got the contract?
Then we got signed to do a record.
Do you remember what studio you were at when you made that record?
This is like ancient history here. I can't remember what it was. I know it was in Jersey. I don't know if it was Jersey City or Newark, New Jersey. I'm not sure of where the studio was.
So you have these two songs written, and just how was that like experience walking into that recording studio for the first time?
Well, it was. We were kind of nervous, you know. It wasn't something we had done before. I mean, it was like a fish out of water. But, you know, they kind of calmed us down, and, you know, we had something to drink and eat. And I had never been in a recording studio before. And I don't know who it was, but somebody said, "Why come all these holes are in the wall?" They said, "Oh, there's a soundproofing," and they had to explain what all the holes were for.
Do you remember how many takes you had of each song?
You know?
How long you were in your studio? A couple hours or a whole day? Or...
I do remember "Give Me a Chance" was actually an upbeat song.
Really?
And then the guy said, "No, it should be slower." And we made it into a ballad, but it was kind of a bounce tune. I do remember that. And I don't know if being in that particular studio, because they had a horn player, piano player, I think a horn, a piano, if I'm not mistaken, a drummer, not a guitar, but I thought there was a trio of some kind that we had in the studio with us. And the horn player had been on a bunch of records. He's pretty well known for doing that. It was interesting because, you know, when you're being pulled out to make a record after singing on street corners, it's like a step up to something that, you know. And then when the record came out, oh my goodness, I heard it on the radio in the car, and heard it on the radio, and oh man, we went crazy.
How was that experience hearing it on the radio for the first time?
Yeah, it was. I was riding in the car with my mother and father when the first time I heard it. I said, "That's me, that's me, that's the group, Mom, Dad, that's the group." And they said, "What group?"
What did your parents think of your group?
Yeah, they thought it was great, but they didn't really know what we were doing, you know. And we had a good time, you know. And we used to go around to all these radio stations that was playing our record, would have us come in and talk about our experiences and who lived where and how did we meet, and I don't know how we even formed the group, because at that time we belonged to everybody's groups. there was 10 groups and everybody singing all of them. And then finally we got our own little Pacific group, and we started going down to Nostrand and downtown Nostrand Avenue and Fulton Street was a station. And it was a very busy station because that's where all the train transfers were. So we said, let's go down there because there's more people. So we'd go down there and sing, and then sometime the cops would say, get out of here, kids. Hey, what do you think this is, a recording studio? Get out of here. And they chase us away. Say, we're serenading people. And some people said, leave them alone. They're not bothering nobody. It was a crazy time.
Do you remember any of the other groups? You kind of, as you mentioned earlier, you did the Battle of the Groups. Did any of those groups do anything after, like recording, or did they were just stayed in the neighborhood?
Oh yeah, there was a guy that used to go with a girl that lived across the street from me, and he had a group, and they did really well. I can't even remember the name of the group, but you know, Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers was the biggest thing going at that time, and a lot of the singers, but Frankie Lyman was from Manhattan. And we were from Brooklyn. There was quite a few groups that were from Brooklyn. And they used to have this thing, the Battle of the Doo-Wops at the Apollo Theater, and there would be 500 groups trying to get on stage. But yeah, it was a very interesting time.
How were those battles?
Well, to tell you the truth, is how many friends you had. Somebody that could pull in 100 kids that are friends of theirs, they won the contest. Not necessarily that they could sing better, but they had more friends in the audience because it was about applause. And some people that didn't sing that well, but they won because they had all the friends. So that was one thing.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So you guys have this record out, and it's being played, I guess, just locally in New York and New Jersey and that area. Was the second Apollo appearance, was that before the record or after the record?
Oh, once we did the record, I think somebody contacted us, or I can't remember, but I think somebody contacted us that no, what happened was after we did it, a guy came up and said, here's a card, you should come and see these people. And it was some record company in Jersey. So we called them up, and they said, we'd like for you and the group to come in to New Brunswick, New Jersey, at our studio, blah, blah, blah. Then once they got there, they said, we're going to do some recording. Would you want to do it now, or do you want to come back? And we said, well, we should come back because we're not really organized for this today. But somebody had a cold or something, whatever it was. And we came back, and they said, this song, You're in My Every Dream, who wrote the song? I said, I did. He said, okay. So you wrote, what about the other song? I said, I wrote that too. So he said, oh, okay. All right. So Bill White, James Allen, Tucson, and myself, we had been singing on street corners. We never, so the guy put these earphones on us and told us to stand right here, don't move, and 1, 2, 3, go. And then we started singing, da 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 da, in the bass and line and doing the whole thing. And then they said, okay, we're gonna do that again, try it again, da 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 da, over again. And then we're gonna do You're in My Every Dream. And I had this thing, yo, I can't do it now, but I was doing it this high note. And he said, oh no, we don't want that. Let's do with a regular voice. You're in my every dream and dream. So we did it, and they liked it. They said, oh, that's great. That's great. I said, but I wanted to do it. It was up tempo, not. But anyway, it was a time when the studios told you what to do and you did it. You can come in there with anything you want. And we could see other groups come in and say, but I didn't want to do it that way. They made us do it the other way. So it was what was a ballad was the up tempo, and what was the up tempo was a ballad kind of thing. So the record companies pretty much told you what to do and you did it. But we didn't get no money. You know, records, I don't know how many sales there were at a record or signing a piece of paper at that time. We didn't have a manager, so we didn't know nothing. I mean, we were just a bunch of dumb bunnies going into a recording studio. And then it turns out, over the years, we found out a lot of people didn't get paid. Some that were big hits didn't get a nickel. So I don't know. It was this crazy, crazy time. If you wanted to be famous, sure, you can be famous, but you ain't getting no money.
So after you guys, made this record and you're doing those radio appearances, did you get any bookings at like bigger shows of some like artists, or was it mainly just local stuff?
Well, what happened was we got other jobs, like for a high school graduation or some football game or some club up in Harlem. Yeah, we did get a few, but it wasn't much. Hey, we got a few, you know. But it was a situation that we did a gig, and we said, okay, who pays us? So, who said you was getting paid? This was free? Nobody told us. But, that's the way it is. One time in San Francisco, I had a limo service. And I went and picked up Chuck Berry. And I brought him to this gig. Place was packed, and the audience, as we came in to the theater, just people saying, we want Chuck, we want Chuck. And he sat there, and he said, where's my money? And I said, don't worry about the money. He said, no, I'm going to worry about the money. Where's my money? He said, don't worry, Mr. Berry, go on, do the show, and you have your money. He said, no. You give me my money first, then I'll do the show. But the money's not here. But I'm not going on. So we sat there for a while, and everybody's running around like nuts trying to get this money. And the show was like 45 minutes late starting, but they came with the money and he put it in his guitar case, folded it up, and went out on stage and did the show.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember that. He said, I don't do that. I got to get paid for it. He said, I've been ripped off too many times. Yeah.
So I guess after you have all, you're doing these local shows in the high schools and stuff, did you guys just kind of fizzle out, or was there kind of like a disagreement within the group, or like why did you guys decide to break up?
Well, there was a military coup in the group because the group had decided that I wasn't going to be the lead singer anymore, that Tucson was going to be the lead singer. And I kept saying, but he has a lisp. You can't, it's not going to work. But they voted me out. And we went and did a show, and he was saying, do you wub, do you wub, do you wub, trying to say love and saying wub. And everybody was laughing, and people went, why are you laughing? But anyway, it didn't work. So that was the end. After that, I said, hey, I'm out. That was the end of it.
Did those guys try to go on as the Montclairs, or?
Not that I know of. After I left the group, they didn't do anything else. But another group tried to get me to come with them, but I was pretty much had it. You know what I mean? It's kind of, when you got 5 guys and everybody has a different view on what should be done and how we should do it, it kind of made it not a fun thing anymore.
Like a chore, I guess.
Right, yeah, it became hard because, first of all, we had to get, at that time, everybody had uniforms of some kind. So we go to this place, you got white suits, blue suits, red suits, and everybody has a different opinion about what we should get. So I said, why don't we just get these? No, we should get those. And back and forth. It was kind of a chore trying to be in a group and everybody have 5 different opinions about what should be done.
What did you guys end up doing for your uniform?
We went to this place and the guy says, hey, I got some uniforms that I made for these guys. I can alter them and you can get them for a discount. So that's the ones we got. Rather than paying to have something made.
So after, the group is now history now, you guys are gone. Did you think that was the end of, music in your life, or?
No, I became a drummer. And I used to play drums all over Manhattan. One time I went to this event and at this Union Hall in Brooklyn on Franklin Avenue. And James Brown was there, but the drummer, because it was snowing out, and the drummer wasn't there. And I wound up sitting in until the drummer got there. So that was quite an experience to play behind James Brown.
That was pretty crazy.
That was pretty nice. Because I didn't realize I was so much out of my league because their intensity was incredible, And I remember another time in San Francisco, years later, there was a jazz musician by the name of Rosson Roland Kurt, and we were in this club, and the guy got up to the microphone and said, "Hey, our drummer didn't show up. Is there a drummer in the audience?" And Rosson's like, "Yeah, here's a drummer right here." And I got up and played with these guys. They were incredibly playing fast tunes and stuff, and I wasn't ready, but I got through it, but barely, So yeah, so you know, it's funny how life is. I knew guys that were local guys and that got up into real acclaim and made money and whatnot, but right, they wound up shooting up drugs or spending up all their money, and they didn't do very well at all. At that time, drugs was like a big thing, you know.
Yeah, that's how Frankie died.
Yeah, so that was the thing. So I always, look back and said, well, maybe if I would have did this or did that, we could have done much better. I should have wrote more songs or like that. Sorry.
So I guess thinking back, do you wish you had done more with groups in general, or are you happy that you decided to go more with drums?
I don't know. It's like, it's kind of like having a girlfriend that you dump, but then you wish you wouldn't have dumped her. How did you justify what you do, in life? It's missing a train at a railroad station. What do? I wish I would have got here earlier. And that's pretty much what it's all about, because at the time, it was a tough time. Money was really, really tight. Like going to gigs and singing, and then when it's over, you're saying, well, where's the money? And nobody knows. Oh, it's not me. No, did you? Oh, this guy hired you. Where's the guy that hired us? And nobody knows nothing. So that was a big deal. And then when you go in and say, hey, we want to be paid first, I say, who do you think you are? We don't pay nobody first. So either you sing or you don't. So
It was a tough time to be a group back then.
it was a very tough time, because somebody told me that they did the Apollo Theater and they won second prize, but they never got the money. So I didn't know. We always got paid, but they say they didn't. I don't know if that's true or not. So yeah, Little Esther was a big time star at that time. I remember being at the Apollo Theater and we met her. She seemed very nice, and she did really great. And I think we met the Imperials one time too. And what the hell was his name? This guy, he was drunk as a skunk. Um, I can't think of his name, but he was had a big hit, but he was as drunk as he could be, and I remember helping him and putting him in a taxi cab. But I'm trying to think of the song. Trying to think of the song. My memory is shot. But there was a lot of great artists that, you know, come through the Apollo Theater that we had a chance to shake their hand and say hello, and Alan Freed, he was the guy that did all the promoting. He had a radio station. He had a radio show. And Alan Freed could make you or break you. And a lot of people don't know, but I don't know if I even should say this, but I think that you had to grease the palm to get certain. But I think that was going on. Payola, they called it.
Yeah, he was getting a lot of that. Was your record ever played on his shows?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he played our records. And there was somebody else that used to play it a lot. Who was his name? Can't think of his name. Man, my mind is gone. I wish my brother was here. He'd remember everything. But yeah, there's a whole thing of singers and actors and people who performed at the Apollo Theater. There was always a gathering down that basement underneath. Little Esther was a big. She was excuse me, a big star at that time.
I bet it was pretty cool to hang out in that basement with all those guys.
Yeah, it was. I'm trying to think of the name of the horn player that used to be on everybody's records.
Was it, like Sam the Man Taylor?
Sam the Man Taylor.
Yeah.
He was on everybody's records. Yeah.
And he was on your record?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Did you know any of the other guys on Premium, that label? Like, did you know the Wheels? Or some of those groups?
I remember being at the studio and meeting some guys, but what group that was, I can't remember. I know that the Battle of the Doo-Wops, I remember that. And they had, you name the group, they were there. And I don't know who the winner was, but it was quite an ordeal.
I bet. Those battles seem pretty cool from what I've heard
Yeah.
about them, but
Yeah.
because I've heard I guess the ones on the stage, and then also just the ones on the street corner under that lamppost.
Yeah. There's a lot of that. During the summertime, it's hot. You go down to the grocery store, you run into some of your friends, and there's two, you start singing on the corner, and then somebody else comes and they start singing. Before you know, there's 6 guys singing. Yeah. I'll never forget, we went to go and do the Apollo Theater or doing some show or whatever it was. And we had to go get these suits. And at that time, the zoot suit had played out, but we thought maybe we could bring it back. It didn't work, but we got these suits and we thought it was really cool. We wanted to get the long chains and stuff that hang down, but no, that didn't work out too good. People said, "What the hell are you guys got on?"
At least you guys got those discounted suits.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite a time in those days. You know, it was. If we went to a record store, if you wanted to buy a 45 record, I think it was $3 or $2, depending on the sale. And if it was an LP, it was more. But what are records now?
30 to 40
Really?
for an LP, yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that. I got a bunch of LPs down there. But yeah, it's crazy.
Well, even though you guys, short-lived group, you guys made two, fantastic songs that you wrote.
Yeah. Yeah, we did a pretty good job.
That's for sure.
We tried anyway, but looking back, I think the Delphonics, Frankie Lyman, what the hell's the other group? I can't think of the other group's name. But there were some groups that were really good. That song, Doo-Bop Bop, whoa, Doo-Bop, the Woppa Papa, Doo-Bop.
El Dorados.
El Dorados, yeah.
Chicago.
Yeah. There were some times, man. I tell you. And what they used to do up there on 125th Street and Lenox Avenue, we used to go to the ballroom up there, and they'd have doo-wop groups, and they would have Latin bands up there. Tito Puente and Orchestra Hollow and all those guys are up there, and they just have a night of music, all different kinds of music. It was quite nice,
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I met Tito Puente one time in San Francisco. Had a couple of drinks with him. Nice guy. Yeah.
I guess if you have anything else you want to say about your group. Yes.
Well, like I said, it was kind of like a one-hit wonder. And after that, due to our situation where there was a coup amongst the group, we didn't do anything more. They wanted Tucson to be the lead singer, so I used to say to him, but he has a lisp. But anyway, turned out to be a good time. We had a lot of fun doing it,
Well, thank you again for sitting down and talking to me. I really appreciate
Oh,
it.
it was a pleasure. A pleasure. Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say to the people that still listen to the Montclairs?
All I can say is thank you, thank you, thank you for listening and enjoying our music that was put out at a time when we didn't even know what we were doing. you know, it was just a bunch of guys singing on a corner, and we did it for fun. You know, and a warm summer night, and I guess we did it for girls too, because the girls used to be around listening, and yeah. But I remember walking down 125th Street off of Lenox Avenue and hearing ooh wah, ooh wah, ooh wah, ooh wah, ooh wah, ooh wah. Why do fools fall in love? On every store for blocks and blocks and blocks. Everybody was playing that song. I said, damn, I wish they'd play our music like that. Yeah, it was quite a time. It was quite a time.